So I recently finished both Shin Megami Tensei 5 and Pokemon Arceus. Playing them both back to back made me realize something odd. What one game fumbled, the other one would do exceptionally well. So that's what I'll be doing today. First off, can I just say, both of these games fumbled extremely hard on the visuals department. Shin Megami Tensei looks fine most of the time, but the frame rate is just absolutely atrocious. And Pokemon Arceus just looks bad most of the time. And I think that is a very fair criticism, because from what we've seen from the next mainline Pokemon game, it's gonna look so much more better. That to me tells me that Arceus could have looked good, they just chose not to for some reason. But anyways, with that kind of worms out of the way, let's get to the real video. First off, let's start with exploration. Exploration in Pokemon actually starts out very boring. The game is really just running and hiding in bushes, as well as dodge trolling, which doesn't really help unless you're getting chased by a Pokemon. In Shin Megami Tensei, you can actually run, sprint, and get this, jump. That's right, in Pokemon Arceus, no matter what, you can't jump even a slight inch off the floor. That means a slight molehill in front of you might as well be Mount Everest because you're not getting over it. But you see, as you play the game in Pokemon, you actually get more and more mobility. You get a reindeer, a bear, a bird, which give you the ability to run, jump, and fly at the press of a button. While in Shin Megami Tensei, you stay running, sprinting, and jumping throughout the whole game. So that means exploring older areas in Pokemon is actually a lot more satisfying than going back in Shin Megami Tensei. By the end game, Pokemon's exploration is actually an extremely fun endeavor. The more you do it in Shin Megami Tensei, the more you realize how boring it is. And one of the most annoying parts of this game is actually late in on it. You end up in some kind of dungeon where you actually have to platform. It's a pretty deep labyrinth, and your punishment for messing up this platforming is more platforming. You just go back to the beginning and have to do it all over again. I haven't played other Shin Megami Tensei games apart from Persona, and yeah, Persona doesn't really have any platforming, but in my opinion that is a good thing because you get to focus on the good parts of the game, like the combat. So yeah, I would definitely say that for the next Shin Megami Tensei game, they should either one, scrap the platforming altogether, the exploration of the hub world, make it a more linear experience like Persona, or if you're gonna go with the hub world, keep the platforming. They really need to flesh out the ways you can explore this world and make it a fun endeavor. However, something Shin Megami Tensei does really well that Pokemon doesn't in my opinion is combat. Listen, I played Shin Megami Tensei in both beginner and medium difficulty, and beginner is 10 times more challenging than anything you'll face in Pokemon Arceus. Shin Megami Tensei 5 has really intriguing mechanics. I really felt like in Pokemon, matches would end almost as soon as they start. It's just about whoever has the type advantage in the highest number, and if you hit a Pokemon in the back, you're most likely to get blitzed and killed in a single turn. Same for if a strong Pokemon catches you off guard, they're just gonna one-shot you. While playing Pokemon Arceus, it was very rare to actually have a good back and forward battle, and the story was pathetically easy. Every time, everybody would have less Pokemon than me, even the last bosses. In the post-game, there is some more challenging battles, but in the main story, there just isn't. This really does feel like a kid's game, which I guess it's what Pokemon is, but I think they could have done a better job in my opinion to make it more challenging. Early game in Shin Megami Tensei is a pain, and I mean that in a good way. Almost every battle feels challenging and that you could lose at any moment. I gotta admit, I do think kicking you out to the main menu every time you die is a bit ridiculous, because all you're really doing is wasting time going back to the game. But that's something Shin Megami Tensei 5 does a lot, waste your time as a punishment for losing. However, when you're actually in combat, it's very fun and rewarding. When you do good against a boss, it really does feel like your tactics played a big part in it. You can change your own character's affinities, weaknesses, and strengths and abilities in a very complex way. You can even use affinities on demons to change their abilities. This combat is some of the best I've ever seen in a turn-based JRPG. Debuffs and elements also play a huge part in this game. I feel there are so many turn-based games where people ignore sleeping or debuffs and stuff like that, but in this game it is an extremely crucial part of the game. When you're actually in combat, it really does feel like nothing is wasted. If I were to give this game a rating on combat alone, it would definitely be a 10 out of 10 for me. And the further the game goes, the funner it gets in my opinion, because both your party and the enemies get stronger and get even more ridiculous powers. Anyway, something good that Pokemon does is catching Pokemon. In Shin Megami Tensei, to capture a shadow, you have to fight it and talk to it and negotiate and get it to join your party. However, this can be extremely annoying. See, in Shin Megami Tensei, there's like groups of like 7 enemies just walking around the hub world, and this is a game where it's necessary to farm. It can be extremely obnoxious whenever you're fighting one enemy, because you hit it in the hub world, there's a slight loading screen, you go into battle, you have to try to talk to him with your main character. If you fail to negotiate with the enemy, then you have to wait for everybody in the enemy to do an attack, then go to your main character again and try to talk to him again. This is even if it's an extremely weak demon. Let's say they're like level 1. You hit him in the hub world, loading screen, go in there, talk to him, fail, you have to wait for his entire party to hit you with 1 damage, which which does nothing, and then go back to your main character, try to talk to him again, and hope negotiations go better. That's if you're lucky. Worst case scenario, they'll actually escape if the negotiations fail. You'll have to defeat the remaining demons that showed up with them. You'll get a victory screen where your characters pose, load back into the hub world, spawn in the hub world, hit another one of the demons you're trying to capture, go through a loading screen, start the cycle all over again. This is the exact same for farming, by the way, which is necessary in this game. Could be 8 enemies on the field, and every time for each individual enemy, you have to hit them in the hub world, go through a loading screen, defeat them, hit the victory screen, load back into the hub world, then hit the next one. However, in Pokemon Arceus, this is what you do. That's it. You just throw Pokeballs, you get the XP if you defeated the Pokemon, and that's it. You captured a new one, and you even got XP if you were farming. If you're battling, there's no loading screens here, you just instantly hop into the battle. When the battle ends, it's almost seamless. The combination of Pokemon Arceus exploration and catching of Pokemons and farming, that is what makes it such a wonderful game. Forget the story, forget everything else, this right here is enough to get you addicted to this game. However, speaking of other stuff that is in the main gameplay loop, the story mode of Pokemon is absolute cheeks. It is nothing but wasted potential, wasted characters. You can probably make an argument that it's serviceable, but anyone that says this is a great story mode is flat out lying. I think a prime example of a wasted character is your quote-unquote rival. He or she, depending on what gender you picked, is always 10 steps behind you and doesn't really do anything. Honestly, in a completely changed up pace from most Pokemon games, I was kind of cheering for my rival to do something. I was like, come on man, you can do it. Since at the beginning of the game, he or she is struggling with their starter. I was secretly hoping that by the end of the game, they would have found their footing and become a great Pokemon master like yourself. But everyone apart from you in this world seems extremely incompetent. Something that pissed me off too is that the main chief doesn't really do anything throughout the whole story, except at the end he banishes you from the village. Then when you go to try to save him, he finally makes his first move, and that is to try to whoop your ass. So you did his groundwork the whole game, he kicks you out of the village for it, then you go back, you have to beat his ass to save his ass. The game is just stacked with characters like these. Please, for the love of God, Pokemon, add voice acting. The Legend of Zelda did it to some degree, you can do it too. Cause at least that way I can enjoy voice performances, whether good or bad, and just get some enjoyment out of that. Shin Megami Tensei, on the other hand, yeah, it doesn't have any crazily amazing storytelling, but the way the world is fleshed out through side quests and stuff is extremely fun. And with there being multiple endings, at least you feel like you're part of the story and you can change the way things go. Yeah, in Pokemon Arceus you get to pick between 2 different teams, but it doesn't really make that big of a difference. Shin Megami Tensei, you actually change your boss fights, change the ending depending on your choices. I'm gonna tell you that Shin Megami Tensei 5 has the best story ever made, but it definitely does a much better job than Pokemon. The ways characters develop through the story is extremely amazing. They actually have character arcs. There is no absolutely right path to go by. No matter what ending you pick, it never makes you feel like a bad person for doing that for it. Once you finish a route, you're like, wow, I kinda wonder what the other routes would have been like. And there's even a secret ending which satisfies almost all parties. Yeah, that's the end of this video. What I'm trying to say is basically, both of these games excel at certain things. If they could learn from each other, their sequels could be some of the best RPGs ever made. Thank you for watching, comment down below what you think, subscribe, like, and if you're feeling extremely generous, donate on my Patreon so I could upload more regularly.